Folks, welcome to the weekly chart review, jumping into stocks and indexes. So, as we kind of pointed out last week, damn, what a nice snipe, and slowly but surely we're climbing up. So it hasn't been as bullish as expected. I mean, we did have two bearish days before finally ending off on a nice high note. Yeah, I mean, we almost have an EMA shift on the daily. That's a good sign. So that means on Monday, if we close green, that's a solid indication of a shift. And projection to hit this target area will come into play. Now, the only thing that when I reviewed this once more, I kind of noticed is if I draw a fib from this peak to the bottom, it kind of gives me a lower target, right? Somewhere around here. So my best guess is, and it's quite a high target, it's about 500 points. I don't really like to have a big spread like that. The only reason why I kind of think it's not going to go as high as intended is because of that fib retracement, right? I mean, it's still a pretty decent climb, but what I'm going to get at is once I get into this zone, if I am not in any positions, I'm not going to take new ones. If I'm in a position already, I'll let it ride until it reaches the next target zone, which is right here. And if I start seeing an EMA shift on the daily going down within this box before hitting the target, I'm going to switch back over to my bearish stance overall. All right, so that's kind of what I'm thinking in the short term here. Pardon me with the coughing and whatnot, guys. I'm still under the weather. As you can hear, my voice isn't exactly all nice and radio worthy. Yeah, definitely a voice for radio, but not the face, right? Anyway, so that's kind of what I'm thinking would be happening with NASDAQ. Okay, showing more on the daily side of things. We've had a lot of gap closures, like one day after the next. So, and it's slowly kind of reaching up to this gap to close. So it's moving at a fair pace, right? I mean, my target is still about 1,000 pips or so above points above where it's at right now. So if I take the measuring tool, right, this would make sense, going up about 11% more to 12,500. And what do I have set here? About 12,499, right? So very close to that same area. It would make sense to shut down that first gap. Could potentially go a little bit higher, but I would say those would be the maxes. I do not see that climbing any further up than that. Excuse me. So, yeah, it kind of correlates with that long-term projection and all the gaps that need to be closed. It kind of reiterates that the continuation down will be somewhere around this area. I'm like I said before, though, I'm still going to be bearish overall once we get into this zone. I'm not going to be taking any new positions. The worst thing that could happen is consolidation, right? If within this box we see a whole lot of something like this happening, that's going to be very unfortunate because that could be 2 weeks of crap, right? And at that point in time, it's not really worth jumping in and out of positions all the time, right? It's, the best thing would be to probably jump in a position when that inter-day support is hit, right? So for example, even in this box, you can kind of see support zone was here. It came close, not so much the next day, right? And it was the black line, the EMA on the daily was used as that liquid support. So that would have been a nice indicator. Hey, you know what? Maybe this is where it's going to be bouncing off. Or even better, the Fibonacci channel lines. You could see perfectly how that aqua was in play here and the yellow was in play there. So it kind of adds a channel to be able to do calls and puts in within that specific area. And here, same sort of idea, right? Look, we went into the yellow, we didn't touch the other one, so now we rejected off that yellow once more. We could reject off the aqua, so we could be seeing that ping pong game in between here before we climb higher. Honestly, I don't think that's going to be the case. Oh, geez, excuse me. I think it's going to be in the same zone as before, right? Like if it's any indication, this would be a very good sign that it's going to happen here again. Okay. So anyway, jumping into some specific stocks, I did mention Carnival Cruise Lines a little while back. I just want to show you where it's sitting, right? So earnings really took a big dump. And like I said before, anything under $8 is kind of a bargain, right? And that's exactly how I felt. So I had a position around $8. When I saw the drops, I'm like, okay, great, let's snag some more up at around the 680 range. And then I averaged down, it went up to 775, and I'm like, okay, I'm at break even, let's sell the majority of pairs. I see this going a little bit lower. So I sold like 75% of my position, and then it dropped down to here. I repurchased it, and then it started climbing. Once it hit $8, I sold half of them off at 15% gains. So easy way to play certain stocks, but you need to be kind of cognizant as to where they're going to be headed long term, right? So I was confident that that drop would not last very long, and it didn't. So now my average is sitting at about $7.05, right? And comfortably, that's around there. So currently sitting at overall 16% profit, right? Not too bad for a week's worth of trading, guys. Okay, so just be cognizant of those sort of things, right? Do your research when you're jumping into a stock that you're comfortable with, right? Even when it drops 50%, right? Buffett is the prime example. Hey, if it's a stock you believe in and it drops 50%, you got to be comfortable with that, okay? So good example to show how not being scared in the short term paid off, okay? My ultimate goal is going to be around the $11 range, kind of where this resistance was, and that's going to correlate with the climb in NASDAQ. So there's been, as you can see, this has been going sideways over the last 4 days, whereas NASDAQ has been also going sideways, right? There's ups and downs. Overall, NASDAQ dropped until Friday, and Carnival, it really just dropped on Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday were overall bullish days. Okay. Now, imagine sticking out ConocoPhillips, right? At that 80 something dollar mark that originally I jumped in on. I think it was 82, 84. 88, whatever. It was somewhere around this area. And I saw that coming, right? And it was quite a nice ride to be a part of, right? It took a little while. Even let's say we got in around the $90 range, right? It had a pullback, what was it? Almost 2 months later, it would have only been up 8%, but hanging on a little bit longer, I mean, that's a 37% gain in 2 short months, 2.5. It's not too bad, right? I had a good feeling about ConocoPhillips compared to any other of the oil stocks, right? So, for example, we'll jump on Oxy, and where it's bounced over the low in the last little while would be, let's say, on August. Let's use the same parameters, right? So only 25%. If it went on the high here, it was 35. But right now, ConocoPhillips is sitting at 37%, like you saw, and Oxy's at 25. So still very good. But again, picking the right oil stock, even though all oil is going to go up, big deal. And the outlier, look at Netflix. This was a very big surprise. I did not think earnings would have it spike this hard up, right? If anybody was able to jump in on it around the 160 range, man, you ran away with some cash, let me tell you. Look at this, right? The lows that we hit in June and even in July, all the way until now, that's a 70% stock gain increase. And yeah, it would have been choppy, right? This is a lot of consolidation, but even snagging it somewhere in the middle here, right? Like let's be honest, you probably would have averaged down if you bought a little higher, right? So now you'd be sitting at around a 28% increase. Excuse me. Still a very comfortable gain. So yeah, there's times where when you realize that a solid stock is going to have quite a nice move, and take a little bit of a risk if you want, right? Especially if you believe in the company. Like I know Netflix isn't going anywhere, and it's gonna recover, right? The first gap it has to close is gonna be around 333, and I mean it's not too far off now, right? I was saying this a few months ago. This gap will be filled one way or another, and it looks like it'll be filled maybe within this run of NASDAQ before it drops. So, yeah, very nice gains over the last few days for Netflix. And let's go down. Let's see. Pyrogenesis isn't really, or no, sorry, not Pyro, Progeny. Just been consolidating. Doesn't matter bullish or bearish days. I still feel that it'll drop back down to the 32 range to close off this gap. So I'm staying out. And as you can see, it's just been a whole bunch of consolidation over the last several months. So I'm not interested. Not until it drops back down to this point, at which point I'm going to buy up a ton of shares, because this, at the end of the day, is going to be a very good company. And let's see, what else? Let's go on, let's jump on one of the popular stocks. Let's say Amazon. Okay, what are we seeing here? So it didn't drop as low as before, so that's a good sign, right? When we made new lows on NASDAQ, but I just don't think it's going to hit the same points here. I think we're going to see that fib within a fib, just like on the Forex, or on the oil, I mean, on the Forex video that I did. So worst case scenario, I still believe Amazon is going to climb to the 130 range. Best case scenario, it's going to hit around 137, maybe 140. I just can't see it going that high, right? The only gap to close is between here. So that's between 131 to 134. And then, you know, there's obvious gaps that are higher, but we're not going to make a run that high this time around, right? So I would say that would be my target if I'm doing any calls. And we're taking a look at the Dow Jones, right? Similar idea. I don't think this is the one I had drawn up. Let me just double check. Maybe I had it here. Let me check if I had it on the Dow Jones chart here. I can't remember where I had it. That's going to bug me a little bit. No. Well. So anyway. Did it freeze? No. Okay, it just takes a while to load. I have a lot of information on this particular chart. Anyway, so as this is going, see, the only ones that are bumming me out is Roku. Like, that's been just consistently dropping. Like, look at this. It doesn't have a hope in hell at this point, right? Every earning potential is kind of killing it. So but the thing is, though, I still believe that there's going to be a recovery, just maybe more long-term rather than short. I firmly believe that this was incredibly overbought. But to drop, what, 90% of value, 80-something percent? Like, where's it at now? 90%, yeah, I mean, that's harsh. You know, Roku isn't something that's going away anytime soon. It's still one of the only streaming services that's decent and free. So, yeah, I mean, still an audience to have with that. It's going to need to make revenue off ads and whatever other partnerships. So this is one where if you're comfortable doing financial analysis, jump in on that, because if you're able to find a very good price for it, this would be probably close to the time. But it seems that the only gap I find is here on the weekly time frame, right? So it could go even as low as 33 per share before it actually reverses. So yeah, I believe that's going to be the goal. Ah, a little dinosaur. What does that mean? This is the very beginning. Ha! That's cute. I've never seen that before. I thought that's nice. Must be when TradingView updated. But anyway, yeah, so my target, like I'm going to draw out, is going to be around here. Let's see if it hits. I'm not going to jump in on any buys until that is closed off. Now, Pinterest has been hovering around support line for quite some time. I'm still going to stay out, not comfortable with this. Okay, Pinterest doesn't really have a whole lot of positivity going for it. It's choppy at best. But yeah, I mean, everything's going to be making a little bit of a run, right? There's going to be some companies that do far better than others. Like Intuit, for example, let's see how they're doing. Didn't get as low as the previous ones back in June, so that's a good sign. And in the last 7 days or so, nine, oh, was it? Yeah, 8 days, it's up 12%, so that's decent. You can see the rejection off that yellow fib channel line. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, guys, just let me know which stocks you want me to jump into. I'm not a huge fan of doing meme stocks, but once in a while, I just, to be part of the joke, I'll laugh at the people that don't understand that it's being manipulated. Ha ha ha. Maybe not so nice of me, but that's okay. If you want to be jumping into something that has no intrinsic value and just jumping in with the rest of the goofballs that have no idea what they're doing, just throwing money at the wall, you do what you want to do. All right. Otherwise, if you want to learn, keep following for more. See you next week, guys. Thanks again for tuning in.